It's Friday, March 5th, and welcome to Tech Thoughts. This week, we will talk a bit about the market, some conferences, and with the IPO of Roblox and some news from PUBG Mobile. Last week, or this week, we also had some downturn in the tech market, down around 4%. Inge, is it still the inflation that is worrying investors?
Absolutely. Interest rates are moving up. I don't know if you guys saw that Australia tried to stop the long-term interest rates to go up by buying long-term interest rates, but that's the only one that tried to do something against it for the moment. But it's really long-term interest rates and the inflation expectations that are trending up that it's putting pressure on the market and especially tech. And also, it's hard for Mr. Powell that was out speaking yesterday. He said it's temporary, and the effects will disappear after the COVID ends. But the problem here is that how can they do anything about the long-term trend in long-term bond trends in the short term? It's very hard because we almost have a liquidity bubble in the markets already. So if they start to buy long-term bonds, we will even have more liquidity in the market. So for the moment, we're stuck in a hard place, and we will probably continue to see volatility.
Yeah, and this week we also had a IPO that wasn't a failure, but it went down a few days in a row. Oscar Health.
Yeah, that's really a trend breaker. They increased the prices, I think, twice going into the marketplace, and then traded down 9% the first day and 7% the second day. So it's definitely a trend breaker that the IPOs are not flying anymore. So let's see if that trend continues or if the mood in the market improves.
And Morgan Stanley had their TMT conference this week. A lot of software companies presented. We listened to most of them. We were impressed by DocuSign, Datadog, Pinterest, for example. Not any major news, but some more interesting facts, product developments. Also, just looking at the CEOs, they sounded both confident and positive about the market. A lot of questions around COVID, which I think is, for these kind of companies, it's not super important. DocuSign, of course, have had a big boom from that, but it's probably pretty it will keep driving business. I don't think that you would go back to signing contracts physically when you have tried the digital signing. Any takeaways you had from the conferences, Inge?
Really two things. You start with the ad market, internet ad market, Google being very bullish and Facebook being quite cautious, which is quite interesting. So you have a different sides of the story there. Google then expecting to really benefit from traveling and accommodation, while Facebook say they will have limited positive effect for that, and they will see tougher comps on e-commerce. So two sides of the same story. And the second part I would like to highlight is the semiconductor equipment guys again. Extremely bullish. AMAT is extremely bullish, talking about $100 billion market, up from the 60s last year. So very, very positive coming out from the conference on applied side, and in general the same capital equipment guys.
And let's move over to the gaming segment for this week's Tech Thoughts. We had a S1 IPO filing released from Roblox, which is kind of a game engine, but also gaming community. So you have over 40 million games. You have almost 40 million daily active users. And as you can see here, the two red arrows, you first had the big bump in hours on the platform, going from 4 billion to 8 billion hours due to COVID last year in Q2. But then the last quarter, now you actually saw a bit of a decrease. Inge, is it sustainable to have that many hours on this platform? What do you think?
I definitely doubt it. Given the fact that they now have 2.6 hours per day per user, I don't think going to school, going to work, you can spend 2.6 hours per day on Roblox. So I think definitely it's going to go down. I also think the community is going to continue to grow. So you have those two against each other, I think, in the short run. But as you said, you want to look at the graph behind you. There was a big bump up with the COVID, and let's see what the underlying growth of Roblox really is.
This user is spending almost $5 a month. That's really strong on this type of platform, and that's on average.
Yeah, no, it's impressive, but I'm also slightly worried there, because if you spend 2.6 hours a day on it, you probably need, you're probably spending something because you're getting bored and you need change in the game and so on. I just wonder how sticky that ARPU will be given that the hours go down. Question mark.
Nevertheless, it's a really impressive platform, and they also talked a bit about on their investor day about how it could be used in edtech. So you could, for example, have students going around ancient Rome and ancient Greece and use that for history class. And there's just a million different things you can do there. So it's pretty cool, the ecosystem that they have built.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting that Unreal came out with a similar video saying you can visit the caves in somewhere in the US, like a science project in school and so on. So all of these guys are now doing other things than just gaming.
And we also had some news about a new PUBG game, and it's not created by Tencent this time. So it's actually created by the original PUBG developer from South Korea. And PUBG Mobile is a really big game. It's the 7th most grossing game in the US. So it's a lot of millions per week there in revenue. What implications do you think this have for Tencent? And do you think the game will take a lot of users from the old game?
If we start with Krafton, they did the PC part of the game initially, and Tencent did the mobile for the initial PUBG. Now Krafton is coming out saying they're going to do their own mobile version, and Tencent owns 11% of Krafton, so they're not in minority there. It's definitely a risk to Tencent, I would say, because I think they want to succeed in other markets like India and so on, and Krafton are, so to say, pushing it themselves now.
Exactly. PUBG Mobile is not allowed in India, so hopefully this is a move also to get it allowed there. And this version is 2051, so it's 30 years ahead of time. So it will kind of be a different game. So maybe some people will play the original game on PC and the original game on mobile, and this will be kind of a new type of game. But it looks really cool, very modern, and you probably need a pretty good mobile phone and 5G connection.
Yeah. And on top of that, when we talk about Tencent, you have MiHoYo doing extremely well with Genshin Impact. It's probably the second biggest game in China, and really, really big in Japan for the moment. And they recruited 800 people, developers in just in December. So they're going bananas. The interesting thing here is the fact that they don't use the Tencent platform or the NetEase platform in China. So they're using Bilibili and ByteDance plus their home web page to get the product out, and it's working. So it's really a different, so changing the dynamics of the industry absolutely in China also.
That's cool, almost like Epic is doing as well, buying a lot of interesting IPs next to Fortnite, and then having its own game store, and probably trying to round Apple and Google, as we have seen in the current dispute. And there will be a lawsuit there pretty soon, right?
Yeah, the court case goes up live 4th of May in the US now. So it's decided on the date now, and it's going to be really interesting to follow. And just to side on that, you saw Arizona coming out saying they're going to test it also before, so in the US. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. I think that's everything for today. Let's hope for an interesting next week.
Thank you very much.